All right. So we have Dr. Paula Ruffin coming in today from Michigan, and Luke and I are coming in live to you today from the beautiful state of Colorado. And Luke, what episode is this?
Episode number 237.
Nice. So 237 chiropractic stories told with the Chiro Hustle podcast. Um, as we always open up our chiropractic podcast, Chiro Hustle, we just like the practitioner to share with our audience what really inspired them to become a chiropractor and maybe share their chiropractic story.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm tickled to be here. And of course, I love you both. So it's always great when I can see you and connect with you and talk to you. Chiropractic was somewhat of an accident for me. And, this whole thing about what's your chiropractic story. And for years I said, I don't really have a story. But then I realized what you think is a lack of a story is actually your story. So I was actually trying to get into physical therapy school. And in that process, there was zero reason I shouldn't have gotten in other than the universe did not want me there. I had a degree in exercise physiology. I had worked my way through college within I worked at the University of Michigan obesity clinic. I did nutrition. I did weight loss. I worked at Domino's Farms World Headquarters. I had all of this really great training in the world of health and fitness from a very young age, and was very deliberate about forging that path coming through college, because I wanted to be able to get out, because of course, what's the biggest thing people say? That, well, you don't have any experience. So I came out of college with experience, with my degree, worked in physical therapy, was working my way through college again, getting prerequisites, and 2 years in a row was not able to get in. And I even had the medical director for General Motors had a scholarship for me, went with me to one of the colleges to try to get me in, and that it didn't work. So we're sitting on my grandmother's couch in Charleston, West Virginia with my sister shortly after all this happened. And she said, well, have you thought about going to chiropractic college? And I was like, I don't know, I guess, and at the time I was 26 years old, feeling like a complete loser because I was supposed to have my life figured out by that time, right? I look back and I go, oh my God, if I only knew, right? So I just said, well, I don't know. I guess I could do that. Why not? And so I applied for chiropractic college. I applied to Life in Atlanta, and I applied to Palmer West. My dad happened to be living in Sunnyvale, California, Cupertino, actually. And so I thought, well, he was 20 minutes from the school. Why not just, why not go live with him? And I'll tell you guys, Palmer West, within, I don't know, it was just I think I applied, and within a couple of weeks after they received my application, called me and said, as long as you get these classes in the fall, you can start in January. I mean, it was literally within just a couple of weeks that I had heard. I've been in practice now for 22 years. I still have not heard from Life Atlanta. So I'm not sure I got accepted to chiropractic college there, but they took my application. So that was it. It was completely by accident. And I, but in the divine design of things, I got to go and live with my dad for 5 years and really have that, connection with him and spend some great quality time with him. So I cherish that time. And then I'm out and I'm doing things that I just never thought. I mean, all the people you've interviewed, you see all these miracles in chiropractic, and I never had an injury. There was never anything like that brought me into chiropractic. It was totally by accidentally, not accidental. So that's why I'm here.
Well, it's always great to hear people's stories, and I never heard that story from you before, even though we've known each other for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the real magic about our show, is it allows your practice members or your patients, they'll be able to listen to this episode and they'll know who you are better. The chiropractic world that doesn't know everything about you will now know more about you and be able to understand your career path better. So I think there's a lot of great things that happen when we start having these conversations about the chiropractor. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do want to just give a little nod to my mother, because when I was little, my brother was, he was hyperactive is what they called it then. Who knows what they would call it now. And she was trying to figure out what to do with him. And she put him on Ritalin one day, and it changed him so much. She was like, I'm not doing that. And then she became this self-proclaimed health nut. So back in the 70s, that's what she would have been called, as a health nut. Took the salt shakers off the table, stopped buying sugar cereals, changed everything to whole grains. We always had home cooked meals anyway, but she really set that stage for me wanting to be in the field of health and wellness. And I truly feel that, if it wasn't for my brother having those issues, and she got him into hockey too, which was great. But if it wasn't for him having all of those issues, that I don't know, would I have been here? I'm not sure, but she really set that pace for me to be in the field of health and wellness, and wanting to live that kind of a life.
So maybe you could tell us, what are some of your favorite motivational quotes or inspirational words of wisdom, maybe some mantras that you live your life by?
Yeah, that's so, gosh, Luke, it's like, hey, do you know any good jokes? Yeah. Yeah. Whenever I see quotes, of course, one of the most famous ones is, you never know how far reaching that, things you do today will affect someone tomorrow. And I think that might've been how it goes. But, I always think about that, how what you're doing today affects people. And I've had now 3 people that I know of in my practice who I hadn't seen in a couple of years come back to me and say, you inspired me. I went back to school to become a nutritionist. I went back to school. One of them went to chiropractic college. I went back to school too. And they all moved into a state of wellness, some kind of field. And I was like, really? I did that? So I was just being me. And so it's those kinds of things. So I do like to live by that. Always think about what you're doing today, and how you're managing people, and how you love them, and how you can touch them, not just physically, but emotionally, and how that's going to impact their lives. So another one of my mantras is, everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be just fine. And several years ago, I was not prepared for a life event. Name the life event. I mean, we all can think of something that has derailed us. For me, it was an unexpected pregnancy that derailed my practice. I wasn't expecting to take time off. I wasn't expecting any of that, right? So I was completely unprepared for a life event. So prepare yourself. The lesson there is get prepared, because it can happen, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and are you going to be prepared for it when it does? But through that, and I mean, it was dark, it was depressing. It was just a lot going on. And the only thing that got me through it, and every night saying my prayers and just saying, everything's going to be just fine. And here we are. Everything turned out fine. And so, that was probably the worst. I don't want to say that being pregnant and having my baby was the worst time, so don't get me wrong on that. But just as far as like where your mental space is, and trying to really figure things out, that was really one of those mentally challenging moments in life. And just saying those few words got me through it. A few deep breaths gets me through it. So, and I use that today, and I tell people that too. So, simple words.
Well, I really believe that deserves an amen. And thinking about your path, when you're talking about your mom removing like all the, modern day foods from the home and putting you guys on more of like a whole food diet. I was talking to a friend of mine last night who's an acupuncturist, whose dad was a chiropractor when he was growing up. And, he was saying like one of the things he didn't like the most was that he couldn't trade lunches when he was like in like grade school, because
Right.
nobody wanted his hummus. And nobody wanted.
Well, that was my daughter when she was in daycare. You know, she's 2 years old, 3 years old, and her teacher would constantly text me, go, "What does Hannah have in her lunch today?" I'm like, "Oh, sushi. I don't know. You know, grilled eggplant." And so it's the truth. Yeah, and you know, to that point though. And again, I mentioned we always had a home cooked meal. So those things that she did, again, like those are values, right? Not driving through McDonald's, not, you know, like we are in such a society of convenience. And my mom was a single woman in the 70s raising 4 kids. Very, very tough to do. And she was a seamstress. So she used her talents and she made ties, neckties, custom made neckties. And she would go downtown and she'd get these accounts and she would come home. And again, like breakfast on the table, a bag lunch for school, come home, dinner's ready. And then she'd go in the basement and she would just sew all night, get us up in the morning. Same thing, out peddling her ties. And it was just such a great lesson that convenience isn't really, it's really sometimes a non-negotiable. You know, like I always think, boy, ignorance is bliss. If I only knew, if I didn't know what I knew, I could just drive through McDonald's and call it a day. But I can't do that, you know, I just can't in my good conscience do that. So when people are like, "Oh, it's tough," and I have this and I'm like, there's ways. Like, of course it's tough, you know, and you're a 2-parent family, and you know, I grew up like that. I just don't find any excuses in the excuses of why we can't feed our kids a healthy diet and show them the value of what putting good nutrition is in their bodies, you know. And we've got, you know, all these sick kids on the planet, and it's, you know, it's food, right? I mean, we know chiropractic is a piece of that, but stop shoveling food into our kids and we're going to have a much healthier community. Don't shovel bad food, right? So let them eat vegetables.
Well, it goes back to the old saying is don't eat cheap, fast, or easy. And I think that if we think about life in those terms, we should think about that with the things that we do for ourselves and others, is use that same type of philosophy for how we take care of each other, how we look after our community, how we look after our relationships, and how we feed each other. And I do believe that as a nation, we are feeding ourselves sick. And it's really the pandemic is the people are like feeding themselves and each other and allowing that to be the norm. So I think that, you know, topically, this is probably one of the best conversations we've had about how people are actually taking care of their children. How they're taking care of themselves and what they see as like okay and the standard. I think that that's it. Is we were told that there's an American standard diet, but then the grocery stores are full of stuff that people shouldn't eat, and
Right.
then we became this fast food nation where, you know, people do want to eat fast and they are always working and they're always on the move and they're always, you know, pushing the limits for what can we do next and how can I do more and how can we, you know, compound time and work more hours and be with our families less. So some of these things that you're sharing, like, yeah, family values. Let's have some meals together. Let's
Yeah.
have some conversations. Shelf the tech for a bit. Learn how to, like, you know, say nice things to each other. And I think that that's you know, as we turn back the clock a little bit, when you became the adult, you know, you appreciated that. And that's what you're speaking about today. And I think that when we think on those terms, when we fast forward and Hannah is telling us, you know, what did she, you know, like that her mother did, she's going to be mentioning similar things. And
Yeah.
it's generational. And I think that when you have that type of mantra and those types of healthy habits, it has an effect on the future of other people. Like you said, you never know how far reaching something that you say or do will have the effect on millions of lives tomorrow. And those people that you had an effect on, it was just because you were living in congruency with your belief systems and you being the doctor. And now those people learn from you. And now they're passing those traits and those healthy habits on to their families. So the conversation is so important today. As they say in the media now more than ever, we need to have these conversations. And what you've created was a belief strategy to make a healthier family unit, but you learned it because you were a part of that, whether you liked it or not. It was just a part of your upbringing. And I think we can't move too far away from that.
Yeah, and it's a great point. You know, years ago when I first got into practice and I did a little bit of nutrition. Okay, here's this supplement, here's that supplement. And one of the things that I recognized was, as powerful as chiropractic is, if I adjust you and you're going out and eating cheeseburgers all day long, you know, there's not much I can do for you at that point. So I then made it my mission. That's when I started studying functional medicine, because I thought, I can't possibly take care of people any differently than I take care of myself and expect them to be well. And honestly, you guys, I've had people not want to be a part of my practice because they didn't like nutrition being pushed on them. And I'm like, okay, go somewhere else, because you're going to hear the truth. And you need this. You have all of these metabolic issues that need, you know, let's talk fertility. How many women come into this practice with infertility issues that, you know, we can help and manage with chiropractic care and a great combination of supplementation, nutrients. You know, we do specific gut checks, gut bacteria checks, you know, look at the gut-brain connection. It's all so critical to making sure that we have a healthier community. And you know, I know, chiropractors have always gotten made fun of. We can cure anything with a spinal adjustment. And I just found you've got to make that combination. You have to help them with lifestyle. We can't just be this, you know, I know I'm going to get like thrashed by the straight chiropractors, the straight upper cervical people, but, you know, we just can't be so myopic and just say, you know, oh yeah, get an adjustment and go out. Oh yeah. Well, and while you're driving through McDonald's, you know, think about the adjustment you got. Like, no, it can't be that way. We have to make sure that we have these conversations with people. And, you know, going back to my mom for a minute, again, as a single woman, my mother always had food in the car. And I always tell my patients this, I'm like, I live like a squirrel. If you go traveling with me, and my mom, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, always in the car, never driving through. And at her funeral, my daughter got up and spoke and said, you know, she called her Nini. And she said, you know, Nini, you're the only person I ever knew that could pick me up from school and have a 5-course meal prepared for me as we get in the car and drive away, you know, and it was true. So there's easy ways to do it. It's just it's a little effortless to cut up a few vegetables, put them in the car, buy a bag of nuts and seeds, and, you know, keep that with you and feed your kids that way, and just show them that we can graze our way through life in a very healthy way. So, yeah.
So how do you think the world would change if everyone started getting adjusted regularly and taking better care of their health and what they eat?
Well, gosh, wouldn't we be a happier nation? You know, you look at people, I think of this story, and I share this story with my patients, that years ago I had this guy come in, and he was in such pain that it really, after about 3 or 4 weeks, he came into me and he said, I didn't realize it, but my wife was about to divorce me. He said, I've been such an a-hole. He said the real word. I don't know if I can swear on here. So,
Go ahead.
Okay. So he said he'd been such an asshole to her because he was in so much pain that she was legit going to divorce it. Like, he was not joking. And I was like, and so chiropractic saved his marriage. Can you imagine that? And so when we think about these things, like how we're connecting with other people in life, I mean, just that, and then of course, look at the stress that we've gone through with the pandemic. If we can help people's nervous system be healthier, communicate clearly, communicate better, get them to calm the F down and not be so snippy. I mean, people, I know you guys have seen this, you know, everybody's on edge and everybody's attacking, and we've got to get the world to calm down and be nice, you know, just be nice to each other. So I've just seen chiropractic from that perspective, help people's attitudes change. They come in and they say they have more hope. They just feel better in general. They're sleeping better. I mean, how do you feel after a poor night's sleep? Feel like complete garbage and totally unproductive the next day. But if you got adjusted and it helped your sleep, can you imagine like how much more productive, how many other people you'll be able to help throughout the next day? How many other people you're going to be able to affect by your smile or just, saying hello or, just reaching out. So I just feel like if everybody got adjusted, the world would literally be a happier place, because that is what happens when people get under regular chiropractic care.
Once again, that's one of those amen moments. And when I hear you talk about this and share your knowledge, I love the idea that it can save a community, and it's BJ Palmer's big idea.
Mm-hmm.
If we could just get one person healthy, we could change a family. And if we could change a family, we could change a street. And if we could change a street, we could change a neighborhood. If we could change a neighborhood, we could change the city. If we could change the city, we could change the state. And if we just got everybody adjusted, we could change the world.
Mm-hmm.
We could change the countries. We could change the way that people thought and the way that they think. And I really see that as, BJ Palmer's utopia. And when people do take care of themselves, they are a better version of themselves, and they do vibrate at a different frequency. And nobody likes to play the pain game, but nobody likes to be in pain.
Right.
And when somebody is having a headache, if you break that word down, the ache of the head, like just think about being around somebody that had a headache consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went in and got their C1 lit up, and the next thing they know, they don't have headaches anymore, and they're not a headache to the people in their life. And I think that when we think about the transformation of a person, when they start getting adjusted and they start trusting chiropractic into their life, like you said, it helps with infertility. It helps with metabolic syndrome, because now you have somebody that's a trusted advisor to that family. It's like going to a financial advisor and saying, hey, if you want to make more money, you have to diversify your portfolio. You have to do this with this income. You have to do this with this income. You have to pay taxes quarterly. But if you looked at it in the terms of like a chiropractic, practice, well, you have to come in and get adjusted regularly. You have to follow my treatment recommendations. We're going to get you some tests to see what's going on with your gut biome. We're also going to talk to you about the nervous system and how it affects the organ system, how it affects the reproductive systems, with the glandular systems and the elimination systems, and all these things that are going on with the human body. And I really think what you're saying comes full circle. If one person just got adjusted, it could save marriages.
And again, we see it every day as chiropractors. We just see this. We see people's faces light up when they just say, wow, I feel, so much better. And it really only takes a few adjustments for them to start going, oh, wow. I had a guy this morning and he's got his spine is a freaking train wreck. And I told him, I said, listen, here's what's going to happen. I don't care if this ever looks pretty. I'm never going to make it look pretty again. But I'm going to get your spine functioning. We're going to get your nerves functioning the way they need to, so you can get back out and golf with your buddies. He golfs weekly with his buddies indoor here in Michigan. But I'm like, it's never going to look pretty again. You've trashed your spine, but there's still function in there. There is still life force. And when we adjust you, you are going to experience that. And he came in this morning and he goes, Doc, I've only been here 5 or 6 times. And he goes, I can't believe how great I feel. And I go, what'd I tell you? He goes, we don't need it to look pretty. I go, that's right. We're never going to see it pretty on the x-ray, but we're going to make you function better and get you golfing with your buddies. I mean, he's 60 some years old and he's retired. Like, he wants to live a super active life. So yeah, I don't care if it looks pretty. I just want you to, I want you to function better. Let's keep you doing that, So that's life. I just gave him his life back, every day this happens. So you just go, wow, he's happy. He now can go out. He can interact with people. He's got a big smile on his face. That's the world right there. That's the world. Wouldn't it be great if we could walk into a public space and everybody's talking about their chiropractor not what statin they're taking or what drug they're on or what surgery they had. I mean, that's my dream, right? As we walk into a space and instead of everybody talking about, hey, did you get your flu shot? Or now it's your COVID shot, that people would be like, did you get your adjustment this week? That's what I want for the world. Like, that's what I want to hear. Well, you know, Dr. Ruffin's giving out free adjustments on Saturday and you'll get a 10% coupon to CVS on your groceries. Like, you know, you get a CVS discount for getting a flu shot. Like, what kind of extortion is that? I don't know if that's the right word, but I feel, you know, just makes me so mad.
It's a yucky thing when they do that type of tactic. Oh,
it's awful. We have a local weed store. I don't know what you call it. I'm not a marijuana person, so I don't know what you call those stores. What's that? Dispensary. Thank you. He's giving out free like joints to people when they get their COVID shot, and I was like, wait, isn't that like? I kind of thought that would be counterintuitive to what the marijuana is supposed to be doing for people. Like, isn't that the healing thing? I don't know. So, yeah. So that's
COVID idiots. I don't know any way to say it, but that's COVID idiot to the extreme right there.
COVID idiot. Yeah. Yeah. You get a free joint when you get your COVID shot. You got to show your little thing. So yeah, it's awful. I know. So
where do you actually see chiropractic heading in the next 20 years?
Gosh, I gotta tell you guys, I've had so much growth from last year through this. I think people are panicking. I think they are, I know people are panicking and they want something. They're finally at the edge where you've got people buying guns who would never have ever thought that they would buy a gun. You have people considering chiropractic who, you know, we were quacks in their minds. I mean, you have people looking for options and alternatives to keep them in a safe environment. So whether it's their safety with you know, any kind of firearm, but then their health. Like, and I always call it, and I've said this in my videos, that what is your armor? You have to put on your suit of healthy armor. And what does that look like? So I think that, and based upon other colleagues who've had growth also from last year. I mean, I had a 6% growth last year. When you think about the fact that it was a 9-month year, right? We had 3 months of shit show where just nothing happened and everything tanked for everybody. And so to pull it up and still have experienced a growth, I think that's just going to start compounding. People are going to continue to see the benefits, and that when we start to see the fallout of what, and I'm not going to say, you know, I don't want to say too much so that the video doesn't get shut down, but when we start to see the fallout of effects of what people think what they've been told they think they should do for good health, I think that's going to be a really scary thing when that starts to really multiply and that information starts to get out into the public. And I think people will panic even more. Not that I mean, I feel badly because I'm thinking, should it get to a place where they panic and then they come to us? It is what it is. Like, if that's what has to happen, then that's what has to happen. Like, let them come to a complete crossroads and go, what do I ultimately need to do to make sure I'm healthy, make sure I'm well? And, you know, I had a patient come in a couple weeks ago and, you know, I've got mold poisoning. I'm not putting a mask on. I'll start coughing. I will hyperventilate. I'm not doing it. And he wanted me to put it on. It was treating his teenage daughter. And she had, you know, severe scoliosis and they, you know, I called the mom right after. I go, hey, I just want to let you know that your husband wasn't really happy because of this. And I said, I'm happy to send you somewhere else. I just need you to go to a chiropractor because your daughter has a severe scoliosis. I've taken care of hundreds, thousands of these in my 22 years, corrected them beautifully, but she needs somebody who's going to be able to correct this. And she was like, oh, wow, you know, thank you so much. So hoping that with that fear, they came here, but then they still got to find a chiropractor who is going to be able to manage those things. So in the next 20 years, I think we're going to be at the forefront of health and wellness. And I think that every single chiropractor needs to stand up I mean, guys, we got docs out there who are buying into all of this, who are like drinking the Kool-Aid. And, you know, we just need to put things in perspective. Okay, do we have a pandemic? People, yeah, they're getting sick, but let's put the whole perspective into place and let's step into that. Like, we cannot be the ones who are afraid. We have to be the ones to break through it and move forward and lead the field of people who are just scared to freaking death at this point. So that's where I see us going. I think we have the opportunity to be great leaders in the field of health and wellness and pull people through this and then become the norm in people's lives instead of the minority of what people seek out for their health.
So on the topic of leaders, who would you say are some of your heroes that inspired you to be who you are today? They could be chiropractic or not chiropractic.
Well, so my mom, because again, everything she did and how she raised me brought me to this space. And then I always, always give credit to my sister, because if we hadn't been sitting there together in my grandmother's living room, I don't know. I don't know if she would have actually, mentioned that to me. I don't know if she would have guided me in that direction. So, and then, my dad was an Orthodox priest, and he was so amazing at speaking in front of people. And he would get up, and I mean, people to this day, I'll meet people and they're like, your dad baptized me, your dad married me, your dad, like he's baptized, married, and buried so many people in the same family. And it's pretty cool when you meet people. But he had this ability to connect, and he would get up and deliver a sermon that, he never took a note, ever. He was like, okay, what's the lesson for the day? And he would just get up, and it was like, man, he had charm and charisma, and he could just speak, like it just came from him, And you guys probably see people who speak, and it's forced and it's very structured. And so I am so grateful to him, because I feel like I got that gift from him. I'm not as eloquent from the perspective of just being able to speak off the cuff like he did. I don't know, maybe I am. Somebody else can make that judgment for me. But I watched that and I wanted to be that. And I never understood why people, like in class, they didn't want to get up and talk, speech class. And I'm like, get me up there. Come on. I want to be up in front of people. Come on, let's do it. And, but because of him and watching him, I just never had that fear. Doesn't mean it doesn't creep in a little bit here and there, but I never had a fear of public speaking. So I credit him a lot with that and his guidance, so that, I could get up here and stand on these platforms and deliver these messages. So I'd say those are probably my three biggest heroes, all family. So.
Well, it's really cool to hear your story, and I'm so thankful that you're sharing it. One of the directions I'd like to go next with you is, you talk about chiropractic becoming, I call it the care of health system, not health care, because we've seen what healthcare has done and where they've misconstrued healthcare into. Chiropractic is really care of health. It's hands-on. It's science, philosophy, and art. It's giving. And based on that, from what you've been sharing with us, what advice would you give to a chiropractic student or somebody that's considering getting into chiropractic, based on everything you've shared with us so far?
Well, I was able to get my little cousin into chiropractic college, not literally, but he was taking that same path I was, with trying to get into physical therapy, having a very difficult time, great student, great education. And I'm like, dude, seriously, I've been down this path. And this is probably, was the question to like any young person making a decision, or student, chiropractic student, or either?
Well, we craft it more towards the chiropractic profession, but if you have just, general advice to somebody that's looking for the next chapter in their life, and, the transition from, teenager to career, maybe you could share that part.
Okay. So, because what I was going to mention on that was that the beauty of chiropractic is that you have autonomy. And there are a lot of careers that don't offer you that. And so, so that's what I had told my little cousin. I'm like, you've got to get into chiropractic college. And I said, you can carve your way. That is, once you have the license, if you want to become a sports chiropractor, you can do that. I decided to really get heavily into functional medicine. You could do that. You could become an animal chiropractor. You can, there's so many different directions, and you get to make the rules. So that was, from a perspective of being a student or, new person looking for something to invest their life in, that would be one thing, is looking for that autonomy. I mean, I am in my office 3 days a week seeing patients. The other couple of days I'm doing admin stuff, but really to be able to earn the living that I live and really be working 3 days a week. I mean, there's no comparison to that, and it's up to me about how much money I'm going to make, right? That, how hard I'm going to work, but you have to have that work ethic. So from a chiropractic student perspective, I would highly, highly encourage them. Number one, you've got to make sure that your mindset is straight so that fear does not creep in. I was very scared to open up my first practice, and somebody gave me a puppy, and I was going to go work for somebody else. And I was like, and I didn't want the puppy because I would have had to have, it literally meant having to go open up my own practice. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but so I had these two options. Do I go work for somebody, or do I go open up my own practice? Because I got this puppy. I can't leave it home all day. What am I going to do? So I decided, because of the puppy, to open up my own practice. That dog literally saved my freaking life. And I don't know. I don't know if I would have stepped out of that fear. His name was Palmer, by the way. So it was a great dog. But because of that, so don't let fear stop you from moving ahead and getting into your own space. Find those good mentors. Find people who can help guide you to when I moved back here to Michigan before I got the dog, a friend of mine, she was like, I'll give you a corner in my office. She literally helped me get all set. She goes, I don't want an associate. I'll just pay me a little bit of rent every month and I'll help you get going. That's the kind of people you need to find. People who are just going to mentor you, who are going to reach down, lift you up, show you the ropes of what it means to actually be able to hang your own shingle. And then I got the puppy and I went and I opened my own practice. So, don't be afraid. And if you are, recognize that you're afraid, reach out to somebody who can help you break through that. And then the one piece, critical piece that I always will tell anybody is, never, ever let anybody know your business better than you, because at any point in time, they can get up and leave, and you are here all by yourself, and you got to run the show. And if you put somebody else in charge of billing and you don't know how to do your billing, you don't know how to get yourself paid, you don't know how to manage your people, you don't know your software, and guys, this happens. There are docs. I have friends who are docs who have no idea how to get into their software. They don't know how to schedule people. They don't know how to do their billing. And I'm like, you're screwed if somebody leaves. So you have to know tip top, from tip to tail, your business before anybody else. So then you can train them, and then and then you're not hosed if they walk out of your life. So so that's my biggest piece of advice. Don't feel like, well, I'm just going to hire somebody. I don't have to learn that. But not true. Make sure you know it. And you'll feel confident with it. So my friends call me, they have their CAs call me. Hey, what do you do about, they ask me questions about billing and the logistics of the software, and I'm like, it's just what I do. So
Great advice. Great advice.
So what do you like to do when you're not saving lives? What do you do for fun, and what do you like to do with your family? What are your hobbies?
I've been boxing for 2 years, so I love yoga, and I can't do yoga now. I'm doing it one day a week in my living room. Not the same as being in a hot room, but they're requiring a mask in a 90-degree hot vinyasa room, and I'm like, sorry, I'm ready to pass out at the end of a class anyway. I'm not putting a mask on to do yoga in a hot room. So, so I get at least one day of yoga in, which I adore, you know, so I miss it. But I've been boxing and kickboxing, and oh my God, like I'm addicted. It's so good. It's just, it feels incredible to learn a new skill, like keep my body, you know, you're having to put neural patterns together when you're kicking and punching, and it is a huge brain challenge. So I love that. That gets me through winter. And then when it gets warm, I'm on my mountain bike. And so I will go out and I'll, you know, do 10 to 14 miles on my bike a couple days a week, you know, continue boxing, do some yoga. But if I can be outside on a trail, you know, it's like you guys, you know what it's like to be out in just nature. You know, people are like, why don't you road ride? I'm like, I want to be out in the woods, you know, get me out in the woods. So those are my happy things. My daughter, you guys have met my daughter, and she and I, like, you know, things we love to do together. You know, we love to travel. We love to shop. We love to cook together. Just anytime I can be with her. And she's 16, and I'm so blessed because the alien isn't quite that, like, she only goes to the alien mothership like every once in a while, where I was expecting a teenager at 16 to be in the alien ship most of the time and the alien to be inhabiting her body. But it's not like that at all. She's a pretty amazing kid. So anytime I can spend with her is, you know, makes me happy.
And what are some websites you can give us if people want to learn more about you and what you're doing?
I am at drruffin.com, drruffin.com. You can find me at New Hudson Chiropractic Wellness Center on Facebook, and at Dr. Paula Ruffin on Instagram, and recently Clubhouse, Dr. Ruffin, Dr. Ruffin. Yeah, and I need that website, Jim. You dropped a site last week where you can put all your socials in. So I need to do that so I don't have to go through each social site in situations like this. So could you text me that?
Yeah, I'll text it to you. There's two you can go to.
Okay.
One's called Linktree and the other one's called like Beacons.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I'll send you the links to those.
I know there's just so many right now. So yeah, so you can pretty much find me anywhere, Dr. Paula Ruffin or New Hudson Chiropractic, and most of my socials are connected somewhere along the way. But yeah, I'd love just one place. It'd be so much easier these days.
Well, if you go over to my page on Chiro Hustle, you can click on my link tree and you can see what that's all about. So
okay.
I always drive people to that one-stop shop over on Instagram now, so they can see all of the things that we offer and how they can connect with us. And I'm sure Luke's gonna tell you guys here shortly that if you go to the website scrolling on the bottom of the screen there,
ChiroHustleMasterclass.com, you can learn to start your own podcast just like we did. Dr. Paula, thank you so much for being our guest today. I know we had
Thank you guys so much.
Push it around to get you on, but we were happy that it worked out.
Yeah, I love seeing you guys. Thank you so much for this. This was super fun. I love sharing my stories that I never thought were stories. So it's really great when I can go, oh, I actually do have a story. So thanks for listening. I appreciate everybody.
And
it's fabulous.
We really appreciate you being our guest today. And yeah, just keep smiling and
you got it.
And we look forward to the next time that we can sit down and have a chat with you again.
I hope to see you guys soon for sure.
Okay.
Enjoy.
All right. Love you, Mr. You too. See you guys.